Hi there, everyone. Welcome to our Resource Futures Boosting Electrical Reuse, Repair and Recycling seminar. We will be getting started in about 3 or 4 minutes. If in the meantime you have any questions that you'd like our speakers to answer in the Q&A, please do drop them into our Q&A section. We're just waiting for the other attendees to arrive and then we can make a start. And please feel free to introduce yourself in the chat as well. It'll be lovely to know who's attending and where you've come from today. Okay, we're just going to give it another minute or so and then we'll get started. Please feel free to introduce yourselves in the chat and drop any questions that you have for our speakers for our Q&A panel at the end, and we'll make sure that we cover those at the end of the session. Okay, welcome again to those who have just joined us. This is the Resource Futures Boosting Electrical Reuse, Repair and Recycling webinar. We are just waiting for a few more people to join us and then we'll get going. Okay, great. Let's get started. Jude, could you move us to the next slide, please? So welcome. This is the third of our Future of Resources webinar series that we've been running since December. Today, obviously, we're talking about electrical reuse, repair and recycling, as well as looking at our Fixie project, as you see from the logo in the top. In March, we have our next webinar, which is all around how data can help us understand our waste. That'll be taking place on the 5th of March at 1 o'clock. And then on the 14th of May, we have our next webinar, which is all around circular economy policies for a just transition, which will be run by our policy team. More details about that will be on our Eventbrite and on our social media pages in the next week or two. Thank you to everybody who came along. Just to get started, a little bit about Resource Futures. So we've been around for more than 30 years. We're a multidisciplinary collection of experts working around sustainability and around bringing a regenerative world where we give more than we take. So working with material resources to help governments, to help businesses, and to help communities to use resources better, and really kind of maximize reuse, repair, recycling, and other sustainable activities. So our work spans 3 different areas. So there's our communities team, which runs projects like Fixie and our other community focused circular economy, waste strategy, and behaviour change. And we also have a data team that works across data visualization and intelligence, and data collection and waste composition analysis. So as I said, we work with governments, businesses, NGOs, non-profits, and community groups. So we work across a broad range of areas, including reuse and repair, which is what we're talking about today. So to introduce you to your speakers today, we have Jude King, who is our Communities Project and Development Manager. We have Julie Searle, who is the Strategy Officer at Somerset Council. We have Linda Hull, who is the Project Coordinator for Fixie at Resource Futures. We have Claire Thresher, who is the Location Manager at Anchor, which was one of the locations that hosted the electricals trials for flats that we've been running in Somerset. And we also have Charlie Edisford, who is our Communities Lead at Resource Futures. I am Ben McCabe. I'm the Marketing Manager at Resource Futures, so I'm going to be comparing the event today, and I will also be running the Q&A at the end. So if you have any questions for our panel as you go through, please drop them into the Q&A section, which you can find in the top menu bar, and we'll make sure that we ask any questions to our speakers at the end of the session. So I'm going to hand over to Jude, who is going to get us started. Jude, it's all yours.
Thanks, Dan. So yes, my name is Jude King. My role at Resource Futures is Communities Project and Development Manager. And I'm going to just talk a little bit about the bigger picture and frame the issue of waste electronic equipment in the UK. So it's a bit of a staggering statistic for you that 39 million tech items are hoarded in UK homes, including £1.5 billion worth of working laptops. And I'm sure there is plenty of homes that they could go to around the UK, as we know. So the scale of the WEEE problem is massive. It's one of the fastest growing waste streams in the UK and across the world. There's a massive cost associated to the value of raw materials lost, over £370 million. And really only around a third of people are actually confident in where they should take or recycle their electrical equipment. To highlight this, we've got a great picture here, which is from a tech amnesty event we did in Frome, a small town in Somerset. We asked for people to come and drop off their smart tech, so that's more the electronic equipment side of things, mobile phones, laptops, tablets. And this is what came in our one sort of slot of the tech amnesty. And this is the town with, say, less than 30,000 residents. So, you know, you can imagine what that is if you replicate that across the country. We also went back to Frome, just highlighting this. We went back to Frome a year later and held a similar event and got even more tech. So this is by no means all the tech that was in that town. It was there's still more to come out. So re-engagement was key. But just before I talk about FIXI, I'm going to talk about a piece of work we were funded for by Somerset Council, which was to do some foundational research looking into existing community activity and trying to see where there are gaps and where we can find potential for helping to spread the word, raise awareness and increase reuse, repair and recycling activity for electricals. So this is the process that we followed, essentially mapping existing local services, then investigating examples of best practices in our area of focus, which was the County of Somerset. We made some key findings from this bit of research, which is then what the FIXI project, which we'll be talking about just now, grew from. Excuse me. So what we realised was there's a huge potential for increasing repair and reuse activity across the county. Also noticing that we needed to better join up the existing services and organisations that were already operational in Somerset, and then also identifying that this is such a rural county that actually there's large areas of the community which weren't engaging, and thus came the ideas for the best solutions to these problems, one of which was something along the lines of a mobile repair bus. And from the concept of the mobile repair bus was born the FIXI project, or the FIXI van. So actually the concept was a mobile repair group, if you like. They're not all repair cafes, to reach out into the rural communities of Somerset and help spread the repair and reuse messaging, especially associated with electronic goods. Oops, sorry, excuse me, that was going to happen. So we found that from the initial outset of this project, it was always going to be stronger in partnership. So we've formed a fantastic ongoing partnership with Somerset Council, Suez and Donate IT. So Resource Futures brought the project management expertise, Somerset and Suez brought the local links and the waste expertise, and then Donate IT are our tech partner who were responsible for securely data wiping, refurbing smart tech, and also the link back into the community to redistribute those devices. And with all the four partners together, we had a really strong offering. The main aims of the project were to increase community engagement. So the strapline was taking repair and reuse from niche to norm, and then looking to build capacity and encourage people to love their stuff for longer. And finally, circularity, making sure that repair and reuse are first on the agenda, and obviously recycling then being the next step. So we've gone through two main funding periods with the FIXI project, which I'll just briefly touch on just now. The first was with EcoSurety. So after we had done the project of the foundational research, we got the money from EcoSurety to actually purchase the van, brand it, build what we know as FIXI today, and then get out on the road and start engaging with the communities. So it was the Exploration Fund, and the main aims were to be connecting with the community and promoting local activities and also council activities. So, for example, the curbside recycling of small electrical. Then we had a period of bridge funding from Somerset Council and Suez, which saw us nicely through to our next phase, which was funded by Material Focus. With Material Focus, there was a greater emphasis on the recycling message, so looking to expand the reach of electrical recycling and refurbishment across the county. We were focusing a lot on promoting curbside recycling and also increasing connections with existing services such as the repair cafes, and running tech amnesty events around the county, plus artwork on outreach in flats, which is the pink bin that you see in the middle picture there. Linda will talk to you a bit more about that in a moment. So throughout this period, one of the key, or throughout the FICSI to date, the key set of funding has been our 2 bits of bridge funding, which has seen us through from eco-surety and getting the van in motion into the material focus stage, and then now we're currently being funded by Somerset Council and Suez to see us through to the next chapter, which again we'll talk a little bit more about later. So that seems like a good time for me to step back and hand over to Julie Searle, who's Strategy Officer at Somerset Council.
Thanks, Jude. Hi, everyone. So I'm going to talk about the Somerset perspective and the local authority perspective. So I'm Strategy Officer in Waste Services at Somerset Council, and we cover around 270,000 households, and we have contracts with Suez for collections, Biffa for treatment and recycling sites, and Viridor for disposal. And our recycling rate is currently around 56%. So our new collections contract with Suez started in 2020, right around the middle of COVID, which was great fun. And we rolled out a new collection service, Recycle More, between 2020 and 2022. And this added additional materials to the existing weekly curbside food and recycling collections. And we also introduced 3 weekly refuse collections at the time. So we've now got the weekly collections of a wide variety of materials, as you can see there on the slide. And the ones highlighted in bold are the new materials, which we added at the time. So that includes batteries and small electricals. And these are curbside properties only. So flats on communal collections have basically the packaging materials, but they don't have the full suite of materials like batteries and electricals. And of course, we've got a number of recycling sites across the county, all of which will accept small and large electrical items as well. Next slide, please, Jude.
Apologies, guys. I think we're just having a slight complication with the slides here. Bear with us for a moment.
Thank you. That's right. So, so despite, we've got pretty good recycling levels there, but we still find batteries and electricals in the bin each year. We did some waste composition analysis in 2023, and that found that 0.78% of our refuse bin was electricals and batteries. And that doesn't really sound an awful lot on the surface, but when you dig into the details, it comes up with these quite shocking tonnages. So 576 tonnes of small WEEE, 23 tonnes of batteries, 5 tonnes of mobile phones, 196 tonnes of large WEEE, and 110 tonnes of vapes. So that's all going into the bin across Somerset across each year. And to put it into perspective, that 110 tonnes of vapes equals around 3.65 million vapes, which is quite a mind-blowing figure. So roll on that disposable vape ban, I think. Next slide, please. Thank you. So we know we needed to do more to get this material out of the bin. It's a waste of valuable resources. It's also a significant fire risk. And like many other authorities, we have had incidents. And one thing we thought was that amongst the excitement of getting plastic pots, tubs and trays into our recycling collections, and a bit of noise about moving to 3 weekly rubbish collections, we thought that message around the small electricals and the batteries perhaps didn't reach as many people as it might have done, particularly as it's not something you produce every week. You only get it now and again. So we wanted to highlight these materials and get them out of the bin. And alongside that, we want to do a lot more focusing on waste reduction, waste prevention, and increasing reuse and repair. But we know there's only so much we can do alone as a local authority. We've all got our pressures in terms of capacity and finances. So we commissioned Resource Futures to look into how we could increase that reuse and repair across Somerset, and that's the foundational research that Jude was mentioning earlier. And we knew that there was an awful lot of fantastic work being done on this in the community. And what we wanted to do is see how we could support and amplify that. We know that working with community groups gives us a different avenue to spread those green messages, and that they're also trusted voices, people in the community. So that message can be more effective delivered through these avenues, and it doesn't just seem like the council is lecturing people. We didn't want to take over what was being done, and we didn't want to undermine all that amazing work that's being done. We wanted to find out how we could support it rather than do anything else. And I think that research really highlighted to us the range and the quality of what the community sector provides in Somerset, and it showed us where there might be gaps in terms of provision. And it also demonstrated some of the challenges that the groups were finding in terms of capacity and promotion and ability to grow. And from that research, as mentioned, came FIXI, but also came our community action groups, Somerset, the CAG project, which again, we work with Resource Futures on. And excuse me, FIXI has been a fantastic project to work on. It's done a brilliant job of promoting and supporting the existing repair groups, helping new groups come on board. And we had started working with Donate IT during COVID when they were collecting laptops for learners. And so they were a natural partner to join the FIXI project and handle the smart tech side of things. And also, again, given that certainty that people's data will be handled securely and managed so people can have confidence about donating. Suez has also been an active partner, as mentioned. They've jointly funded FIXI with some bridge funding alongside us, and they've provided the logistics around the flats trials, which Linda will talk about later. And the CAG Somerset project, again, has done a great job of improving the reach of community groups in Somerset, making sure they're working safely, building resilience, and making links with other networks, and supporting the development of new groups, amongst many, many other things that they do. CAG, again, is funded jointly by Suez and Somerset Council, and we've seen some really brilliant, impressive results over the first 2 years. And the feedbacks from groups that they work with has been really positive as well. Next slide, please. So you can see from that infographic some of the impact that the CAG has had over the last year or so. And that's one of the benefits of both CAG and FIXI, is that we get a lot of data on there. So it's not just the tonnage data, but we get the difficult to measure social value data as well. So that might be volunteer hours, numbers of items reused, and lots of other different things, as you can see there. And this demonstrates the wider benefits of these projects. So it's not just about keeping things out of the bin, but it's, you know, helping people through economic hardship, or saving them money, or helping tackle mental health through volunteering, that sort of thing. It's a lot wider than just dealing with waste. And this data helps us develop business cases to do even more than with that. And we're trying to incorporate that messaging into other areas that we work with as well. So our Schools Against Waste programme, which is delivered by Kerrymore Environmental Trust, they're currently delivering a new electricals workshop, and this will offer another channel to promote options for recycling, where to find the local repair groups, where people can drop off smart tech, and where Fixie is going to be. And it will even be possible for the schools to get a visit from the Fixie van as part of this as well. We've worked with public health to incorporate vape recycling messages in with the work that they do on smoking and vaping. And, you know, there are opportunities that we're looking at exploring with housing teams about redistributing unwanted electrical items to people that are moving into social housing and that. And I think overall, we've been so pleased to see the impact of these two projects and the increased awareness of electrical reuse and repair and recycling. It's been nice to see the repair groups, the promotion of those, and people becoming more aware of them, as well as all the other fantastic community groups that are doing work on waste reduction around the county even. Next slide, please. So on that note, I will pass you over to Linda Hull, who's the Fixie project coordinator, and she'll tell you more about Fixie. Thank you.
Thanks, Julie. Hello, everyone. I'm Linda Hull. As mentioned, Fixie project coordinator. I'm the lucky person who gets to drive the van around our beautiful county of Somerset, chit-chatting to all sorts of lovely, very interested people. So I get to organise what we call tech amnesties at events of all sorts. So that can be standalone events with parish and town councils, together with the repair cafes, of which I think there are about 30 across Somerset, and in a particular piece of work with housing associations, which I'll speak about in a moment. As Jude said, the whole notion is around loving our stuff for longer, and just that face-to-face in-person conversation about reuse, repair, recycling, and also letting everyone know where the permanent drop-off points are across the county, where people can donate their smart tech. So throughout 2024, we conducted a survey, and you can see from the slide there that 70-odd% of people polled had never been to a repair cafe before, and half of those had no idea what a repair cafe was. But as soon as I mentioned, have you seen the repair shop on the telly? Everybody said, oh, yes, yes. I said, well, this is a community version of the repair shop. And straight away, people understood the purpose of our work. Of those that did know about repair cafes, most of them had heard by word of mouth. And I think that just emphasises the importance of having, like I've said, that face-to-face, in-person conversation, especially given the demographic that has engaged most with Fixie, which tends to be people my age and older. Younger people tend to know what to do with their devices, whereas older people have that concern about data destruction. You know, what do I do with all these old phones? So the community reaction to Fixie has been overwhelmingly positive. Everyone loves Fixie. It provides a simple answer to the pressing problem of the drawer of doom. Everybody has that drawer of doom. One or two people tell me they don't. I'm not sure I believe them. But where you keep all your old phones, all your old chargers, all your old wires and cables, laptops, tablets, things that have broken down or become broken. We provide that solution together with Donate IT. So there's the secure data destruction, the responsible recycling of all the precious metals inside, which in fact goes towards the refurbishment work. And I'd say the key reason that people really enjoy donating to Fixie is the idea that at least some of what is donated can be refurbished and will be given back out free of charge to people in digital need. So if we go on to the next slide, please, Jude. I didn't expect it to be that one. Okay. Have you gone one up further on? Okay, I'll talk about this. I'll go on to speak about the small electrical trials from together with the pink bin trial. Basically, in Somerset, there are 11,000 flats, and those households do not have access to curbside recycling in the same way that if you live in a house, you do. So we held trials with 11 different blocks of flats managed by 8 different landlords. Now, this was a mixture of sheltered housing schemes, general needs provision, as well as owner-occupied retirement apartments. What we found was the most successful and receptive audience was those residents living in sheltered schemes where there was a scheme manager. This enabled us to really communicate the message. Why was this recycling of electricals important, and how people in flats could get involved. So the benefit of there being a regular tenant engagement meeting, if you like, regular coffee morning or coffee afternoon, enabled me to come along, give a talk, leave a leaflet, answer anybody's questions, and also to reassure them that any items of smart tech with data on, I would come back and do a particular tech amnesty with for those items. And then the pink bin, you can see it here standing out lovely amongst all those other ones. That would be left in place for 1 or 2 weeks, and our longest trial was for 2 months. We also offered a free bulky large collection as an incentive for flats to get involved. So, I mean, I think what's really interesting to report is that through that period of trials, we managed to keep 470 kilos of small electricals out of the waste stream. And people living in flats, they don't always, because of the older age group as well, they don't always have access to transport to get to the recycling centre. So it was a real boon. I should say that with general needs provision, it was more difficult to get engagement because of that lack of a meeting and also lack of a scheme manager. However, in those situations, we did flyer all the flats we worked in, and the Housing Association was able to send texts to individuals. We also used Facebook, but there was nowhere near the same level and quality of the engagement that we were able to achieve with the scheme manager in place. Going back then to these, just to give you an idea, so you see those numbers to date from the beginning of the FIXI project in 22. We've collected a massive amount of electronic waste, and you can see there are over 5,000 items collected and spoken to 6,500 people. In 2024 alone, during my driving the van around, I just wanted to let you know that we've been donated 1,253 phones, 703 laptops, and 239 tablets. And of those 5,400 items there, about 25% of those will be able to be refurbished and given back out free of charge to those in need, closing that digital divide. And just very briefly to say, some of the recipients of those devices could be anybody from someone living who's homeless, a care leaver, prison leaver, refugees, survivors of domestic violence. And also there's lots of medical applications as well. There's a partnership with the BRI around children having access to phones to enable remote management of conditions like diabetes. And I think the important thing just to stress is how important it is to have those trusted voices. And the people of Somerset are trusting us to pass on those devices. So with no further ado, I'm going to hand over to Claire Thrasher, Location Manager for Anchor Housing, who was the guinea pig for our very first trial.
Hello everyone. I'm Claire Thrasher. I'm scheme manager at Northlees House and Queen Elizabeth Court in Street, Somerset. Next slide, please, Jude. Anchor is the largest not-for-profit provider of housing and care for older people in England, and we manage 55,000 homes for people in later life across almost 1,700 sites and operate in 85% of local councils in England. The sites comprise of rented independent living locations, independent living with extra care, leasehold locations, mixed tenure villages and care homes. And in Somerset, we have approximately 15 rented locations like the ones that we have it in Street. So Northlees House in Queen Elizabeth Court, we have the recycling for the cardboard, plastic, that kind of thing. But the tenants, they do struggle to get rid of other stuff, especially if they haven't got cars. The average age really of the tenants living in the street schemes is about 80. So, and a lot of them don't have cars. So when I got the call from Linda to see if we'd be the guinea pig for the trial, we jumped at the chance. Next slide, please, Jude. So Linda came along to a coffee morning and she brought along representative as well from the Street Repair Cafe, and they had a chat with the tenants and explained what the trial was about, and also gave out information about what was available in the area. And all the tenants were really on board with the trial. So the following week, Linda came back with the van, with the Fixie van, and she set up her shop in the car park. And just within that hour or so, as you can see, 6 laptops, 20 mobile phones and 10 tablets were collected. Also, we had the pink bin, and that went down a storm that they could get rid of all their the kettles, microwaves, toasters that have been collecting dust in their cupboards of doom. So yeah, it was really positive, really positive trial. And it was back in September, last September, and we've had numerous tenants come along and say, when are we having the pink bin back? We still need to get rid of all our stuff. So yeah, really positive. So next slide, please. No.
I think we're just having a slight issue with it. 1 second, Claire.
Yeah, so I'll hand over now to Charlie Edisford, Communities Lead at Resource Futures.
Thanks, Claire. Next slide, brilliant. So yeah, I was just going to kind of touch on potentially evolving the model and kind of the next phase of Fixie, or indeed beyond. And yeah, in order to do that, I guess it's just helpful to think a little bit more about the impact. So we've heard from Linda some great stats about the types of items that we've collected and been able to redistribute. But yeah, a really key part as well of the project is to build the capacity of the local repair and reuse sector. So Fixie goes along to the launch of a repair cafe, obviously promotes the fact that repair cafes are out there when it goes around and talks to people within the community, but also it inspires new groups to form. So that's happened a couple of times. Going into a community, having conversations had sparked the idea of actually we'd like to set one up here, and then we've been able to support those new kind of groups to form as well. So it's really also about building the local capacity within the sector. And linked to that really is the idea of kind of developing local assets. So those repair groups then, you know, exist for the long term in communities, as do the tech collection points, which we've touched on. So Donate IT, our partners, have got kind of long-standing tech collection points within the community, primarily for the kind of laptops, mobile phones and items like that can be refurbished. And we've set up 11 of those through the life cycle of this project, which then will again be kind of long-term assets. What we've also been able to do is, alongside within this period, the reuse messaging really be promoting the curbside for Somerset. And we can't take full credit for this stat, but within the period of the last phase, there's a 25% increase of the electrical curbside recycling. So yeah, obviously it's kind of spreading messages through word of mouth and through partners as well. There's obviously then the social impact we've touched on by kind of gifting those items back into the community through our partners, Donate IT. You know, we're able to connect people who are not connected, but they can then access healthcare. We work with referral partners from the NHS to enable people to track their diabetes. We also kind of are able to then link people up to education through kind of schools and also employment opportunities. So there's quite a holistic impact of that, as well as you know, the kind of collections built through the project. And then really we're able to, through these conversations and through that really tangible thing of gifting in an item and promoting how that's going to be refurbished, we're able to kind of do that sustained longer term behavior change as well. So there's kind of a host of different stats, but this one's quite nice, which is that 68% of people who've engaged with Fixie are more likely then to buy something secondhand through something like Back Market. That, you know, which just really kind of helps to boost that idea of reuse rather than necessarily buying new. Next slide. So yeah, then in terms of kind of adapting Fixie or scaling it, or you know, having potentially other sister projects, then you know, there are many different ways that Fixie could evolve in the next phase. One kind of idea is Fixie being on the road. So we're going to Newport soon to go and do a promotional event with Newport Circular, promoting reuse and repair, and really always kind of doing that in conjunction with the kind of local repair sector as well. Kind of linked to that is the ability for Fixie to help with campaigns. So that might be a reuse campaign, it might be a service change to kind of go alongside a service change or introduction of a new service to kind of promote that messaging, because we know how well that works. Other kind of ways that we're wanting to evolve as well is potentially thinking about a more kind of urban model. So rather than having a van, perhaps having e-bikes or cargo bikes or something like that, to provide a kind of still a very kind of visual asset that can move around, because that's what has been so great about Fixie. It's kind of, people see it, people know it, people smile is some of the feedback, but being able to kind of transfer that into a more urban context. And then yeah, there's also kind of the potential for us to expand the kind of flats model. So we've worked with a small subsection of flats in Somerset. There's potential to work with more within Somerset, but also to think about how that type of approach of bringing more permanent electrical recycling within flats could be replicated elsewhere as well in the country, because there are over 5 million flats without this kind of that access to recycling. So yeah, lots of different ways in which we could potentially be supporting more messaging around reuse, around repair, but also recycling as well. And you know, there's at the moment still only a small portion of curbside kind of is collecting electrics as well. So it's kind of helping in whatever way we can to promote that. Next slide, please. So I'll start talking to the next slide, and I'm sure it will follow. But yeah, the kind of the next thing that I wanted to just kind of touch on today was thinking about how this could be, replicated elsewhere. If you're thinking, oh, how could we get this going locally? So certainly the first thing that we would always recommend doing is review what's happening in your local area, really get to know your local sector. So that is your community groups, your repair groups, your climate action groups. So there'll be people working in this space already. And then, linked to that is what is going on locally around tech repair, refurbishment and recycling. So what provision is out there, and then also thinking about what are the needs of your specific area. So in Somerset it was a rural context. What is the kind of specific needs of where you are, and then the kind of next kind of aspect, and that's something we do recommend doing really early on, because we worked really closely with the kind of repair groups as we were evolving the FIXI model to make sure we're amplifying what's already happening, and that can kind of leads on to the potential for collaboration. So building partnerships locally that are going to help you to achieve outcomes and deliver and increase your reach. So certainly that could be your local authority partners. That's been fantastic working with Somerset. Having the Somerset Council kind of logo on things has definitely helped people to feel confident in handing over technology, knowing that it's going to be securely data wiped through our tech partner Donate IT. And that's really the other key relationship for this type of project, is finding out what technical expert you might have locally, who might already be doing this kind of work, or who might want to evolve this kind of work. So Donate IT evolved out of Blackmore Computing, seeing the specific need within lockdown for young people to get access to technology. So there might be a local tech partner already working in more of a corporate sector who might be interested in moving into this type of work, or there might be somebody locally already doing this kind of work who might be interested in partnering with you. If you're working within a local authority, who's taking your computers? Are they refurbing it? Would they be interested in refurbing? So kind of that is really a vital partnership for this type of project. And yeah, I think then it's kind of what partners might you have locally in the community. So local repair and reuse networks I've mentioned already, but it's also other local organisations. So community hubs. We've worked very closely with Victoria Park Local Pantry, which hosts a community fridge. We've now got a tech donation point there. It's also somewhere that we can do outreach, and also it might be that some people who are engaging with them might be in need of technology or digital inclusion. So there's a kind of nice loop where we can collect in items and regift as well through community hubs. And kind of linked to that is obviously other types of local organisations as well, who can kind of work to either help you to outreach and get more tech in, or equally help to find the people in need of technology as well. And then that collaboration is obviously vital for delivery, but also for fundraising. So yeah, when it comes to trying to kind of, I guess, get this type of project off the ground, there are lots of different ways to do it, and you can obviously do it on varying levels of budget depending on what types of things you want to develop. But yeah, key is going to be understanding the potential for there to be any funding for it through local authority pathways, whether that is through the waste service, or for instance our community action group network also draws on a little bit of kind of public health funding, climate funding in some of our other projects. So it's kind of understanding what is the context locally, and who's going to be your champion, I suppose, within the local authority to drive this kind of project. And then it might be thinking about what businesses might there be locally. Are there any local businesses working in this area, whether that's within the tech space specifically, or kind of other corporates who might have an interest in this area that might actually want to support it as well, whether from their corporate social responsibility side or because it's very linked to their values. Then there's obviously grant funding, and we've benefited from 2 rounds of grant funding. So there's grant funders who are interested in more of the kind of environmental side of it and the environmental benefits, and then there's, you know, grant funders as well who are going to be interested in the more kind of social value and social change that is happening as a result of these projects. And, you know, really then the key thing that we, you know, have said kind of throughout this presentation is that value of partnership for delivery, but also for fundraising, because you can bring together the expertise from different organisations. Also, in doing so, that can open up other opportunities to access funding. So, you know, certainly that's kind of going to be what we're looking at the moment within the FIXI project. We're kind of looking at how we're going to evolve and adapt the model in order to work in you know, some more place-based ways in certain communities as well, kind of boosting their skills and access to technology as well, kind of the dual benefit really of repair skills and technology. So yeah, I think that was all I was going to share on that. So I'll hand over to Ben now to host our Q&A, but also just to reinforce, if there are any questions you have after this, feel free to reach out to myself, Jude or Linda, and we'll be happy to follow on conversations.
Great, thank you, Charlie. I'm just going to bring everybody back on screen so we can get the Q&A started and ready to go. I think that's everybody. Great, so we've got lots of different questions coming through. We'll try and get through as many of them as we can in the time that we have left. And any that we don't manage to get to, we will endeavour to answer, and we'll send out an email with any answers that we're not able to get to at the end. We also had a few sent through beforehand as well, so we will try and get through all of them, or as many as we can. Let's start with this one from Joe Pusey, who's asked, what learnings from the FIXI project are transferable to cities specifically? Charlie, do you want to start with that one?
Yeah, absolutely. So we kind of mentioned the idea of adapting the FIXI model, and that would certainly be something that would work really well in an urban context with something like an e-bike to move tech around, because it's not just so I think the key learning really is it's logistics. There's a lot of logistics involved in a project that is collecting tech and then donating tech and refurbing tech. But equally, in an urban context, that the logistics might be that much easier, in the sense that you would have a smaller geographic area to be moving items across. So that would be beneficial. But yeah, then the other side of it that's been very successful is having the kind of really visual branded FIXI van getting into people's hearts and minds. So that's where I think if you could have some kind of branded e-bike or cargo bike or something moving things around, that would be very, very valuable. And the other thing, I guess, the learning, which is learning that we've kind of had shared through Donate IT, and then we've expanded within our project, is having those kind of local donation points for smart tech. So that could work within any community space, to be honest, but libraries work really well. There'll be a lot of different community organisations within an urban context who'd probably be happy to host that donation point. So yeah, I feel like it would work really well in an urban context, but maybe just not with the van as the main kind of asset.
Great. One that I can quickly chalk off from Joseph Kenny: will there be a recording of the webinar and slides at a later date? Yes, we will be sharing the recording from the webinar with everybody who's signed up. So if you did miss the first 5-10 minutes of this, or for any of your colleagues that didn't manage to get along today, we will be sharing that. So you will all have a copy of that afterwards. Question from Tracy Flint. She's asked, are your repair cafe are your repair cafes collecting WEEE as well as repairing them where possible? So Julia, I guess this is more of a Somerset question.
Yeah, thanks, Tracy. So the repair cafes themselves don't generally collect the WEEE, they just repair it. We have the donation points, which are set up in community venues all around Somerset, and Donate IT manage that. Saying that, though, one of our repair groups is particularly interested in getting some electrical items and repairing them and distributing them throughout the community, and where they've got the capacity to do that, we are currently trying to work with BIFA, our recycling centre contractor, to get them access to some electrical items so that they can go and repair those. So generally, as standard, they're not. They don't have capacity to store stuff. They don't take it away. Obviously, the volunteers are doing this as giving up their time to do this. But that's not to say that, you know, where there is a demand, we won't try and facilitate it.
Great, thank you. So a question from Gildas Jones saying, great to see all these initiatives. On the items that are too old or beyond repair, is there any money back that you can get from the metals in the circuit boards? Does anybody want to field that one?
Well, Lindy, you can probably follow on from this, but that is exactly what happens. So everything that is not repairable is kind of totally stripped back into its kind of composite parts, and that process is managed by Donate IT, and then anything that is able to be kind of, I guess, have any income generated from it goes into the cost of refurbing those items as well. Linda, was there anything else to add?
No, just going to add that, you know, the average person is very surprised to realise, you know, on my stall I have various bits and pieces of parts of phones and computers, just to, you know, clearly demonstrate the amount of gold, copper, silver that is in these items. And our partners at Donate ID very proudly say that all the gold that they manage to claw back goes to the Mint in Wales. So yes, there is a revenue stream there.
And then a question about procurements, and particularly procuring for FIXI. So what procurements had to be run to enable this project? And is there any advice for how to navigate public sector procurements in a swift manner?
Should I make a start on that one? Excuse me. So in terms of FIXI, we ran the normal tendering process for the foundational research, and Resource Futures were awarded that. And then, because we'd been working closely together on the research piece, they knew what we were looking to do. The idea of the mobile repair van was something that they had suggested might be an opportunity, and then Resource Futures recognised the opportunity there through EcoSurety to get some funding for this project. So they approached us to be a partner in that project with them. So Resource Futures led on that project, and we were a partner with them. So we didn't need to go through the procurement process for FIXI itself. In terms of the other work we do with Suez, we have a joint pot of money which we both contribute to from the sale of the recyclable materials that we get. That pot of money, which is known as our sweep fund, Somerset Waste Enhanced Environmental Programme or something, is held by Suez. So although it's contributed by both Somerset Council and Suez, Suez hold the purse strings there, so they can then procure for stuff throughout that, which can in some cases speed up the process.
Great. Anything from anyone else, or should we go on to the next one? Okay, great. So this is one more for Linda and Claire. Have there been any issues with contamination with the wee pink bins during these trials?
Well, I mean, that was the one thing that I was absolutely flabbergasted by. There was not any contamination whatsoever, and I think that's testament to the quality of engagement we were able to achieve with the flats. I don't know if Claire has anything to add.
No, like I said, the tenants got on board with it all, and yeah, it was really, really positive.
A question actually from myself, just out of curiosity. Obviously, one of the big benefits that you guys had with the setup at Anchor was that there was the common room and the coffee mornings that you could attend, Linda. What would be your advice for setting this up in flatted properties or areas where there might not be that kind of common room and that kind of communal kind of centre to kind of revolve communications around? What other communications would be options for kind of promoting this kind of thing?
Okay, well, what we did with the there's a arm's length management company in operating in Sedgemoor with 4,000 properties. You know, trying to find the member of staff within the housing association that may have some responsibility for community development, community engagement. If you can get them on board, I mean, we did leaflet all the flats. You know, any newsletter that goes out, Facebook, text messaging where that's possible to individual tenants. We did try all those options, and perhaps with more time, you know, that would be certainly that would help if we had more time and more opportunity to engage along those, you know, through those channels. I'm sure that that would help. But that was our experience.
Okay, brilliant. Julie, a question for yourself. So this is for local authority, from a local authority which doesn't have electricals curbside at the moment. What would be the first steps that you would recommend for trying to introduce electricals curbside recycling?
So we introduced it as part of a wider service change, and I think within that, that message got a bit diluted. So having a very strong communications message about the electricals recycling, how to present it, what's accepted, what's not accepted, just as importantly, is key. We're curbside sort in Somerset, so obviously it's easy for us to add on a Roam equipped vehicle where we've got compartments for different materials. So having those discussions with your contractors about the best way of collecting the material and how that's going to be managed will be the easiest way of setting it up. But that information piece to the residents is definitely key to how successful it will be.
Brilliant. We've got time for a couple more questions. One that's just come through from two people, actually Tracy and Jack. They're essentially the same question, but I'll read them both. How did you avoid thefts from the pink bins, and have you experienced theft of wee from pink bins in outside MRCs or locations? So yeah, Claire and Linda, I guess both of you can speak on that.
Not fully aware of there having been thefts from bins, but certainly in discussion with residents. Some residents were concerned about putting items into the pink bins because there were hoarders known to live in the blocks of flats. So for sure that was a reservation for some people. Perhaps if we continued longer with our trials, we may have come across more of that, but certainly in the time frame that we had, yeah, that was our experience.
Claire, did you experience anything, Anchor?
No, not at all. No, it wasn't even considered, I don't think, at our schemes. Yeah, it was the bin was put with the other recycling, and yeah, no problems.
I'll probably add to that.
Can I just add to that?
Oh, there we
Yeah,
go. There's more to add. When Linda went out to do the initial resident engagement event to inform people about what's going to be going on and that there's a pink bin going to appear, a week later, she would go and hold a tech amnesty to collect smart tech items. So those, I guess, would be the items of higher sort of perceived value, and therefore the things that you maybe might be more inclined to see if you can nick out the bin, basically. So that tech amnesty was done, and all of the smart tech was taken away securely. So I think that probably another element to the success of lack of things being nicked from the bin is that actually once the smart tech was separated, it was things like printers that don't work, or items that aren't working, so less of a worry that things would have been stolen. I don't know, Charlie, if that's what you were about to add as well.
Yeah, pretty much. I was just going to explain the distinction that the tech donation points are where the kind of those items will be collected, or tech amnesties. Then the bins are for waste that is waste, so it's broken items. there was another comment in chat about then what can be diverted to local kind of repairers, and obviously anything that's broken that's technology is then referred by local repairers, and Donate IT bring in a lot of people who have got kind of different barriers to employment as well, so that kind of happens in that side of it. But yeah, then the items that are being put in the pink bins are generally what's considered waste, so it goes into a waste stream, and at that point it's kind of within that kind of waste processing stream, so it's hard to remove them. But in terms of the evolution of FIXI, one thing that we have been talking about is whether we could have a reuse kind of stream, a different bin where we could have items that either could be a simple, if it's something maybe a simple repair, or something that could be reused. That's where I think thefts might be more so the case, and I think the way we'd combat that is by having it in a community space like a library or something along those lines, which is only open in kind of the hours of kind of day, when it's been kind of supervised, I suppose.
Yeah, and I guess kind of the point there being that when there is that data concern, something like a tech amnesty is a really useful tool to have in your arsenal for empowering people to feel that they can hand over their electricals without having to worry about the data issue of having their own personal data on that device. Cool. One last question, because we are over, to Jude and Charlie. How can we make something happen in terms of we repair, reuse and recycling with limited funding? Obviously, looking at a lot of council budgets and a lot of kind of business budgets are very stretched at the moment. How can we use limited funding to bring these kind of schemes into life?
Yes, it's a good question. I think the main one would be to work in collaboration and partnership with your local repair group kind of network, whether that is the informal repair group network or others who are working in the space, such as partners like Donate IT. So it's kind of finding out who are the interested parties who are going to be the champions of this within the local authority, within the repair sector, both kind of voluntary and not, and then how can you bring about those linkages? So if it is if it is possible to have some type of donation points within existing spaces, potentially libraries, you could start bringing in more technology, and then working with kind of your tech repair, whether that is a kind of more corporate partner or a community partner to support that kind of repair of those items. Then you could get that loop going, even if you just targeted on the higher value items initially, and from that you could then kind of build out into the wider kind of electrical items. There's also the kind of spend to save model, in terms of the fact that it would be thinking about what modeling you can do around what income could be kind of generated back from these projects from the local authority perspective. Because I'm sure that there would be a lot of kind of financial benefits from having these types of projects happening as well. I don't know if that's anything Julie can add to.
No, I don't think I've got anything to add.
Sorry, I was also going to follow that on with I don't have very much to add, but agreeing with the partnership messaging, and also the highlighting the importance of the partnership with Somerset and Suez, also helping us out with comms across the county. Obviously, starting a project from scratch, you're going to have a very relatively small following in terms of social media and audience, and therefore if you can use partners to help spread the word as well, then that's obviously beneficial.
Okay, brilliant. We're going to have to end it there because we've run slightly over. Thank you very much to everybody who's attended, and extra thanks to Julie and to Claire for joining us today. We really appreciate your input and your insight on this. Yes, we will be sharing the presentation with everybody who signed up afterwards, and we will also be sending out a Learnings from FIXI guide in the next few weeks or so. So keep an eye out in your inboxes for that. Thank you very much, everyone, and have a great day.